Hello there, my dear novel-thinking friends. It's time for another book review. This time it will be hopefully a very short but sweet review of the graphic novel El Deafo, which I seem to have already convinced a fair few people to read because it is very sweet and it's very unique and it's worth a look at. Our hero, the mighty El Deafo, has met a most worthy opponent, her own mother. How can El Deafo free herself from the shackles of this weekly humiliation? So first up, as I said, El Deafo is an autobiographical memoir written by C.C. Bell in the form of a graphic novel which explores her experience growing up and going to school for the first time as the only deaf child in her community. The storyline is very simple. It follows Cece from the age of 4 when she first starts kinder and school and is wondering how she's going to make friends when she has to wear a hearing aid because she is deaf. It then follows her as she grows up through several years of primary school and explores the challenges that she faces in finding friends and fitting into her community. The name El Deafo comes from the name of a superhero alter ego that she makes for herself in order to find strength and solace throughout these challenges as a little girl. So there's not really much to talk about this in terms of like typical review categories or sections because it is both a middle grade fiction story and also a graphic novel. So it's very, very short, very sweet. There's not much, depth to it. Well, that sounds a little bit harsh, but you know what I mean, right? In terms of characters, I thought it was really cool how C.C. Bell managed to really capture the mind of a child and the experiences of a child. I was reading this and there were lots of things that sort of brought back memories, obviously not of actual events that happened in my childhood because my experience as a child was nothing like hers, but memories of just the way you felt and the things that you worried about and thought were important as a child. She did a really, really good job of that. I think this is the perfect example of it, and this is right at the start, so it's not really a spoiler, but right at the very start, this little girl, she's 4 years old, and she says, "Just because I don't hear good doesn't mean I can't look good. I love my bathing suit. I wear it all day, every day." And as if you don't have a memory of some item of clothing that you insisted on wearing every single day, everywhere you went, no matter if it was weather appropriate or not, or season appropriate, you just wanted to wear it because you thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then looking back as an adult, you realize that it's actually ridiculous. I thought that that was really, really very sweet and a very honest memory of a child as well. So this book is dotted with little bits and pieces like that that just really let you know that this is a little girl who is going through these experiences, and no matter how much you can say that is profound now about it, and obviously there's a lot about this experience that is very challenging and that would be very, very challenging and tough for a little girl to experience, she did often end up getting caught up in just the same childlike worries that anyone else would. Because obviously this isn't about difference or points of difference. This is about a story of a little girl finding friendship in primary school along with everything else, really. And I think that the way that she really captures that essence of childhood really brings to the foreground that kind of point of it's not always about us and them. We often seem to find it way too easy to segregate ourselves. These are the people in this race, these are the people from this country, these are the people who are disabled, these are the people who are not, and we end up talking about people in an us versus them kind of way, which I think is often an unnecessary segregation. And I think that this novel, which captures that essence of childhood, which is true across all children, really does sort of bring to light that importance of remembering that we've all been children, no matter where we are in the world, what we have or don't have, what experiences we have, we're all children and we all sort of go through the same phase of seeing things in the same way. That ended up being less of a review and more of a mini discussion about the ways of the world. I'm sorry about that. Another thing that I did really want to sort of talk about with this is the artwork itself. The use of a graphic novel to sort of depict this story of a little girl becoming deaf worked really, really well, because she uses the speech bubbles really cleverly. Just so you know, this C.C. Bell she became deaf as a result of an illness that she got at the age of 4. So she wasn't always deaf. She did grow up not deaf, and then she went to hospital because she was sick and lost her hearing. And so what happens in the speech bubbles, which you can't see very well here, but they fade, like the writing in the speech bubbles fades as her ability to hear fades, until in the end, for a little while before people discover that she can't hear, all the speech bubbles are just completely blank. And I thought that was really clever. And there's lots of little clever things like that. Like, she really uses the artwork of a graphic novel very cleverly to capture that experience of deafness as well. Between the blank speech bubbles or blurry speech bubbles with the wrong sort of combinations of letters in them so that you can't understand what is supposed to be said. It was really fascinating to see how that graphic novel medium was used to tell this story and to capture the experience of being deaf. To be honest, there's not much else that I really feel like I can talk about. There's no point in talking about the plot line because there isn't really much of one. It's basically just a selection of anecdotes from her childhood. She had said herself that they're not necessarily collected in an accurate order of how they happened in childhood. They're just things that she remembers and experiences that she wants to tell, that kind of tells the journey of trying to find friendship, which all of us struggled with as children, but with the added challenge of being deaf. And it was very, very sweet. Fun little fact for you, everyone in this story is actually a rabbit instead of a person. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but she's a little bunny. And she chose to make everyone bunnies because of the fact that they have giant ears and that bunnies are known for very, very good hearing. And she thought that that would sort of, you know, emphasize the point that she felt like she was the one bunny who didn't do what bunnies were supposed to do, which is hear very well. Also, I found an interview with the author of the book talking about some of the experiences that she wrote about in the book and the characters that they're based on and all of that kind of stuff, along with a blog post where she talks about the artwork behind the book and sort of shows you photos of the children that she knew growing up and the teachers and the actual hearing aid and the house and the school that she went to that she's based the drawings of in this book, which I thought was a really fascinating read. So for anyone who's interested in seeing some of the people and places that this book is actually based on and the way that they were turned into graphic novel pictures, there's a link to that as well. Again, I don't really have a proper rating for this book to show you just yet because I haven't explained my soon-to-be rating system. But when I do make the video about my rating system, I will add a rating for this book to that video and also to all the previous books that I've reviewed but haven't given ratings for. So that's pretty much all that I have to say about this, really. It's a very, very cute book. I read it in literally like an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. So it's a very quick read. You can read it in one sitting and it is very informative, very fun, and very, very well put together. I'm sure you're all wondering why I gathered you here today. Well, the truth is, I have some buttons for you to click.